Ooh, it's been a long time since I've done this. Ooh, it feels great to be back. Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to.
Knockouts and three counts. A little different than what you're used to if you've been watching us through the pandemic, but as Devin said, it's great to have him back on the show. I figured since we were asked by, and he's got podcast juice too. Holy shit, are you guys in for a treat? We were asked, and the reason why we're here is we were asked by one of our listeners to go back and look at Bash at the Beach 1997, which featured a main event with Dennis Rodman and Hulk Hogan versus the total package Lex Luger and the Giant. A lot of good stuff to go back through on this show. Have you watched this show before we did this, Deb?
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I had never seen this show before, man. This is my first time watching this show.
That makes two of us. I honestly can't remember watching it. So we're bashing the beach 97 virgins. Well, not no more. But stay tuned. We're going to give you our breakdown of this whole show. And if you haven't already done so, smash that subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss any of the great content that's coming from your boys at Knockouts and Three Counts. And who knows, if you stay tuned, you might even see some more of Devin. So stay tuned. Check it out. All right, Dev. We got asked, and this is a first for us. We've been around 3 years and we had a first. One of our listeners, Nick, messaged us on the inbox, which,
Wait, is it 3 years?
Dude, you know, right? Shit, man, it's crazy.
3 years?
We're at 150 episodes, man, which you can check out in the description. We've got the links to all of our stuff, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. But we have a first. We were asked to go back and take a look at WCW Bash at the Beach 1997. Now, as Devin said, he hasn't watched this show. I honestly don't think I've watched it. So we were Bash at the Beach 1997 virgins, or it's just been a while. But we went back and checked out the show. For me, this is the first time I can remember seeing it. For Dev, it sounds like the same thing. Let us know in the comments what your first thoughts are to this show when you hear it. As I said, the main event in this card was Dennis Rodman and Hulk Hogan versus Lex Luger and the Giant. You also had Roddy Piper versus the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, and a bunch of other stuff. So let's start from the top, Dev. First of all, just off of what you see when you come into this show, what were your thoughts on Bash to the Beach? Go ahead.
Wait, before we jump into that, man. 1997. I want to say this was July of 1997. How old were you in July of 1997, sir?
This many. Actually, technically, I would have been this many because I turned this many in September.
You were 4 years old when this
4 and change, sir. Don't shortchange me.
I'm sorry. You were almost 5 years old when this happened. I was 12 years old, man. And
you weren't that much older, motherfucker. It's still 8 years, but
7 years is a long time, man. Yeah. But and as I'm watching this, man, I'm sitting there thinking. And you got to remember, earlier in the year we had the Last Dance documentary going on about the Chicago Bulls, and you got to realize this pay-per-view was going on during that time. And Dennis Rodman's with the Chicago Bulls. I was a huge Dennis Rodman fan. Dennis Rodman is probably one of my all-time favorite players, man. So just going back in the time machine to watch this pay-per-view, man, it took me back to those days of watching the Bulls dominate the NBA, watching Ric Flair and Roddy Piper, and even though I wasn't the biggest Hulk Hogan fan, watching Hogan and seeing a lot of other people in here that I was huge fans of too, man. So I'm looking forward to breaking this down, man.
So I agree with you, man. Like, again, when I was a kid, man, like I started watching. So like I said, I was 4 and change in this one. I really got into wrestling about the time I was 6. So it was a little bit, but I didn't watch it live. But yes, I went back and watched it. One thing that jumps out to me right away with the WCW shows, and this is something that we've heard past guest of our show, Eric Bischoff, which you can check out the links to his shows there in the top right corner. Something we've heard him talk about a lot.
I think I know
The one thing that jumps out to me with WCW, like I said, when I started watching, I was kind of bouncing back and forth between Raw or WWF and WCW. But the thing that jumps out to me with WCW is, although it still looked good on TV, now that I'm older and look at kind of like some of the peripherals around an event, one of the things that really jumped out to me was like how small the arena was. Like, did it not jump out to you at all when they would do like the pans around the crowd where you're like, it's packed, but it ain't, you know what I mean? It ain't, like, I don't know. It's just something that jumped out to me.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that maybe that's a 10,000 seater, maybe probably less than. Actually, I just started over again. I'm looking at it. It might be about 7,000-8,000 seats in that place, man. And I noticed that. And other thing I noticed too is that, and I already know that their rings were smaller than WWF's or WWE's, but like watching it again, it's like, man, that ring looks really, really small, man.
And you always remember the sound of the WCW ring too. I don't know why. Like, I always remember the sound of their canvas.
Man, that definitely brought me back, man. I missed that sound, man.
I'm with you, and I think somebody might have smuggled an old WCW ring into AEW, but hey, what do I know? I'm just saying, I asked Eric that. There's proof in that link that was there in the top right corner. If you don't believe me, go check out our interview with Eric Bischoff from last year's StarCast in Baltimore, which was another small arena, and let us know what you think. All right. So the first thing I've got on my notes for this one is the first match of the card. Like, I understand not every match that you're going to see on a pay-per-view is just going to knock your socks off. But
right.
Am I the only one that looked at this match and saw the teaming of Glacier and Ernest the Cat Miller and were like, what the fuck? Who put these guys together as a tag team?
Versus Wrath and Mortis featuring James Vanderbeek.
Is that the same Father James Mitchell from Impact?
Yes, that's Sinister Minister James Mitchell. Yeah, that's him, man.
I thought it was.
That's one thing that
stood out to me. Different.
He looked young as hell in that, man.
He didn't have like the devil eyebrows and he would have fit in real good with Kevin Sullivan, who we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video. I'm just throwing that out there.
But one of the things that stood out to me in this match, man, is Wrath and Mortis. Like, I listen to a lot of Eric Bischoff's podcast, 83 Weeks, and I keep hearing them talk about Wrath and Mortis, and Conrad kind of shits on on them. But I don't know if you remember. You might have been. Yeah, you definitely too young to remember Wrath as Adam Bomb in WWF.
I know who Adam Bomb is. I didn't watch it live, but I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, so that might have been a little bit before your time, man. But dude, like Adam Bomb, like, was he the best wrestler? No, but like he was over, man. Like that dude had a following, man, and like the fans got behind him. So to see him in WCW a little bit after the Adam Bomb character was definitely interesting for me, man. Honestly, it wasn't as bad of a match as I thought it was going to be, man. It was a decent match, and it was weird seeing Ernest the Cat Miller kind of early on in his WCW run, and Glacier's a big dude, dog.
And he's still training people today. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he have a hand in the Nightmare Factory that Cody and them got going on down there?
I think so. I do believe so.
So, I mean, obviously the guy's got some knowledge. Matter of fact, this shows you how much we actually do our homework here at Knockouts and Three Counts. Glacier also had a hand in training the Amazon that we saw on AEW, known as Jade Cargill as well. There's a fact for you wrestling fans as well. I don't know, man. It was what it was. Ernest the Cat Miller, I really could always take it or leave it. But I will say the one thing that stuck out to me in this match is, they always talked about his martial arts skills and that kind of thing. I'll give credit where it's due. Some of the stuff that guy was throwing was crispy. I'll give it to him. Some of it looked good. It was crispy.
It's about Ernest Miller.
Ernest Miller.
Ernest Miller. Okay.
Yeah. Some of the stuff he was throwing was real crispy. That match was really kind of a throw together. Conrad always shits on Mortis, but I don't think Mortis's get up was that bad. I don't know. But like I said, dude, this match I think was kind of just there. I don't really got much more I could really say about that one than that one. I feel like this match was kind of there. It was better than I expected it to be. But I mean, your typical opener match for a pay-per-view. The next match, we've got a lot to dissect, a lot to talk about. The next match on this card was the great Demo God, Le Champion, the leader of Fozzy, Chris Jericho versus Ultimo Dragon. Now, if the mail wasn't so slowed up right now, I had a dope ass mask that I was going to show you guys. It was going to be real cool. That was going to be the thing that made all of you guys watch this, but the mail fucked that up. Let's talk about this match though, man. First of all, the first thing that jumped out to me, and I put this in my notes, how come these motherfuckers matched? If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see a picture of them in their gear. They damn near like were identically matched.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, man, because I'm actually watching it right now too. That was one of the first things that jumped out to me. Like, why are you guys basically wearing the same gear
on a pay-per-view?
Like, you guys didn't talk about this beforehand, or hey man, let's make sure we're not walking out in the exact same colors. Yeah, you guys look like you should be a tag team. You look like you guys had a tag team. And you guys ended up splitting up, and they put it on the pay-per-view, like the go home show. You guys had some beef, and said, "Well, you're gonna sell this in the ring at Bash of the Beach." That's what it looked like. It looked like they were a tag team that having a blow off of their feud right
now. I can see that, but the thing is, as I'm sure you expected, and I definitely expected when I saw these two on the card for the match on this one, I have to say, the match that these guys had though was great. I think of
course.
I was really looking forward to this one, but the thing that really stuck out to me in this, especially after watching AEW Dynamite from last night right before I watched the pay-per-view, is you hear people talk about it a lot in wrestling, in the fact that Jericho has been one of the ones who's been able to recreate his character more than most in wrestling. I think this match is a perfect example of that, because the mat wrestling between these two, along with some of the aerial stuff, just the technical ability of these two, man, it was fire. They went back and forth the whole match, even down to the finish of the match, winning by, a roll up like that in the counter. Like I said, great match, great bell to bell wrestling, great, chain wrestling. What were your thoughts on the match as a whole?
Well, before I get to the match, like one thing that I was thinking about is that this is Chris Jericho's 30th year in professional wrestling, right? This match happened 7 years into his career. And if you think about that, 7 years into his career, he was one of those guys that everybody was like, man, why isn't this guy, getting more? Why isn't he being pushed more? So to see him, 7 years into his career, and to see where he is now, 30 years in, as basically the MVP of a whole new company that's on TNT, it was very interesting to see, where he was then and where he is now. And like you said, man, like these two guys were crisp, great moves. Chris Jericho has not lost that much over 23 years.
People can hate all they want.
Yeah, it's Chris Jericho,
for a reason.
Right. Is Chris Jericho as young and as spry as he was 23 years ago? Well, of course not. Nobody is. But Chris Jericho can still go, man. And Ultimo Dragon too, man. Talk about him for a second. We saw him, was it 2 years ago at Ooh La La Lucha?
God, was it 2 years or a year? I can't remember, but Ooh La La Lucha, we saw him there at St. Andrews here in Detroit with past guests of the show when Movado took on El Rudo de las Chicas, Sam Adonis. Yeah, dude, Ultimo Dragon was great to see live. Another thing I wanted to talk about Ultimo Dragon, though, and it's something that gets looked over a lot, but I feel by a lot of younger fans, I feel like. Two
What
things.
is it, the Green Ranger shield that he wears all the time?
No, that wasn't what I was going to bring up, but I was going to talk about, since we're talking about it with Kenny Omega and Impact, you want to talk about belt collectors. Belt collectors really started with Ultimo Dragon. That man had every cruiserweight belt there was in the fucking world. Cruiserweight champion of the world, Craig. Cruiserweight champion of the world. Yeah, dude, he was the belt collector back then.
Do you realize that
Go ahead.
Do you realize that he had the WWF light heavyweight or cruiserweight championship on
light
WCW
heavyweight
television? Yeah, that was crazy to me, man.
I didn't know
he
that.
had
Now you're
WWF
dropping
belt
knowledge
on their
on
show.
me. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, you want to talk about, one of the people who helped pioneer cruiserweight wrestling. I mean, not only just in what he did in WCW and holding all those belts, a little known fact to those of you who are younger wrestling fans, and maybe you're just getting tuned into Chris Jericho, a lot of the reason why Chris Jericho got his start over there in Japan was because of one Ultimo Dragon in the WAR War promotion over there. So Ultimo Dragon and Chris Jericho have quite the storied past. This match, to me, like I said, there's not really a whole lot more that we can say that we haven't said, and that was, dude, I would definitely say one of the best matches of the pay-per-view.
I definitely agree.
Thoughts on the WCW hotline? Seeing Mean Gene come up with the hotline, what is the first thing that comes up to you?
Well, okay. The first thing I thought when I saw Mean Gene, and I mean, I don't want to bring the mood down, but dude, we were about to meet Mean Gene Oakland, man, before he passed away, man. At what was the name of that? What's the name of that comic book convention we go to? Because Jim Ross ended up
Great Lakes.
No, not Astronomicon. It was the one after it.
Great Lakes
Comic-Con. Yeah, Mean Gene was supposed to be there, but unfortunately he passed away, and then Jim Ross ended up taking his place. So yeah, I feel like I missed out on the opportunity. I know. Look, as much as I'm not a big Hulk Hogan fan, like Hogan and Mean Gene
was a staple.
I agree, but I think underratedly, Mean Gene and Savage and Mean Gene and Ric Flair, they also had great dynamics as well, man. But the common denominator is Mean Gene Oakland, man. He's just one of the best, man, of all time. I mean, the best. I mean, I can't think of anybody else better than him doing those interviews, man.
I have no argument. I miss the great interviewers of back in the day, man. But whether it be Mean Gene or Jesse the Body back in the day, or whatever you want to use, seeing Mean Gene on there brings back the nostalgia. One thing that popped into my head with the hotline is that was the biggest scam ever. Like, as a kid, I remember you would call, like, "Mom, can I call in? They got so-and-so on the line." And guess how long you got with them? 30 seconds. And guess how much that call cost? $30.
$84.
$84 a minute. I'll never forget that. I always thought all those hotlines, although I missed them, they were the biggest scam ever. All right, the next match we got on the card. Go ahead.
And kids, just remember, this was before the internet was really a thing. Like the internet hadn't really blown up. So I remember sending emails back in like 1995, and that being like this revolutionary thing. People don't even think about emails anymore. I'm old. You had to call a hotline to get the hot information. Now you can just go on your phone and it's like, hey, such and such did this at last night's show.
We couldn't do that back in the day, man.
Shit.
Well, talking about back in the day,
you was one of them young whippersnappers too, you young bastard.
I was a young bastard, but we didn't have like the internet back then, at least. Talking about old people, man, and talking about matches that I didn't realize happened. The next match that we've got on this card was the Great Muta and Masa Chono versus the Steiners. Now, first of all, the nostalgia in this match. But I want to point out two things to you before we talk about this match. First of all, when the fuck was the Great Muta in the NWO?
In NWO?
Do you remember this, or did you remember this before we did this show?
I did.
You fucking liar.
Thinking like, no, I'm serious. I remember him with NWO on his face. And I'm like, dude, Muta was still wrestling in WCW in the 90s, in like the late 90s, man. So I'm like, I was wondering if he was going to be on this show. But
what a hell of an all-star tag team for him, though. But the fact that it's him and Chono, right? Like, that kind of threw me off a little bit because, like, as a wrestling fan, sure, that's a dope-ass tag team. But the fact that you've got Chono and Muta under the NWO banner, it just seemed kind of off to me. But they're taking on the Steiners, which go ahead.
Pre-Papa Pump days.
Well, dude, that's exactly what I was about to get into. Like, you talk about weird things going into this match. Scott Steiner with black hair and the baby man bun. Bro. It's a far cry from the big bad booty daddy that we now know is Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump. All in all, dude, it was a pretty good match. It was a pretty good match. Some of the things that stuck out to me in this match, though, can we talk about the fan in the front row on the left side by ringside that like kept getting in everybody's face, like the bald guy with the glasses?
Dude, the whole night, man, I'm like, why do they need to throw this guy out of here, man? This guy was getting on my nerves the whole night, man. The whole night. I was watching we'll talk about it in a minute, the Jeff Jarrett match, and I'm like, dude, get him out of here,
man. This match, though, like I said, I think for just quality wrestling matches, much less a quality tag team match, great match. I guess the one thing that's going to jump out to me, I guess, and be the thing for me in this one is I just don't remember them in the NWO. Like, I just can't get over it. It just seems so off. Like, I enjoyed the match. Don't get me wrong. I really did. I enjoyed the match, but man. And, the DDT that Scott Steiner hit, like the Doomsday DDT, I'm like, oh shit, don't break his neck. Don't break his neck.
Nice.
Like, there was a lot of good shit in this match. If you haven't watched this show, go back and watch it after you're done watching this and let us know what you think in the comments. All right, the next match on this card, there's not really a ton to talk about other than the fact that in one match,
flippy shit.
A lot of flippy shit. And you had Juventud Guerrera, Garza Jr., who, if you guys are new WWE fans, is related to the Garza that you see on TV. Liz Mark Jr. versus the Chairman, who's still going on strong in 2020, LA Park, the Chairman, and Psychosis, which, first of all, their matching attire in this shit was dope. It was like some X-Men type shit. Like them coming out with Sonny Ono, like with them matching, it was pretty cool. And they were joined by Verano Ford. Don't know who the fuck that is. But
me either.
Like I said, the first thing that jumped out to me is, oh shit, that's Garza's family in there, first of all. I miss the cruiserweights. The action that you used to get back in the day with the WCW cruiserweights, man. Son of a bitch. It's a far cry from what we see in 205 Live. And now this isn't anything to shit on 205 Live because we've got multiple of our guests that are on that show at this point. Kurt Stallion is on that show. You know, you've had multiple of our guests have been on there, dude. So I'm not shitting on 205 Live, but yeah, it's a far cry from what we see in the quote unquote cruiserweights of 2020. Devin, briefly, what were your thoughts on this match?
One thing that basically kind of piggyback on what you just said, man. If you want to throw it to today's times, when you look at AEW versus WWE, you have the competition. Let's just call it what it is. There's a competition. But one thing that you have to look at is how each company, differentiates themselves from the other one. And AEW now, their big thing is tag team. Tag team. When you think AEW, they have the better tag teams, right? Well, back in the day with WCW, one thing that they definitely had that stood out from WWF was the cruiserweights, to the point where WWF then created the light heavyweight, brought back the light heavyweight title to try and compete with it. But you have to have something that makes your company stand out, and the cruiserweights definitely was that for WCW. You saw that with Ultimo Dragon versus Chris Jericho. You saw that in this 6-man tag as well, man. It's great action. It's fast paced, man. It's smooth. Just great match, man. Great match. I enjoyed it.
See, that's a lucha match where like the spots make sense. Too often in 2020, you see matches where guys are just so focused on getting their shit in that the stuff don't make sense. That's a lot of one of my gripes with AEW, which we've talked about on the show before. Like, they have great action, but sometimes it seems like you're trying to fit 5 pounds of shit into a 10-pound bag. And this match really flowed well, especially for being a cruiserweight match, in my opinion. He's giving me the look.
Did you mean 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag?
Yeah. I mean,
you said 5 pounds of shit into a 10-pound bag. So a lot of slack in that bag, sir.
Look here, man.
You gotta pack that bag.
I got Crohn's disease. I got all the shit you could ask for. I got Crohn's disease. I got all the shit you could ask for. The next two guys in this match were pretty
Johnny Hungee.
I mean,
wait, hold on. That's knocking the door right there. Be right back. Go ahead.
Devin's got to go get his pizza, everybody. But the next match that we've got on this card is Chris Benoit versus Kevin Sullivan.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Devin will be well nourished here in about 10 seconds. But you know what else was well nourished as we get into this?
I can hear you, man.
You know what we get into this match, both of these men were well nourished. I mean, Kevin Sullivan was trying to take him a hunk out of Chris Benoit's chest, and then Chris Benoit returned in kind, taking a page out of Iron Mike Tyson's book, trying to take a bite out of Kevin Sullivan's ear. So they must have got the memo. Motherfuckers got to eat. I'm just saying. What were your thoughts on Chris Benoit versus Kevin Sullivan?
So the thing that stood out the most to me, well, number one, if you know the history of Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan and Nancy Benoit, you're like, man, this is a crazy match. But
if
for me, the thing that stood out the most was Jacqueline, man.
Bro, I was going to talk about it. So
but Jacqueline was me that stood out the most to me, man. Like, dude, you know how you hear people always say that Jackie Moore was tough as hell? This proved it, man, because she was getting her ass whooped like the whole night.
Well, dude, like, Kevin Sullivan threw her by the hair like 4 or 5 times.
Exactly, man. Like, dude, this was crazy, man. And like, to me, she was the one that stood out. And I remember, man, here I go showing my age. I remember watching her back in like Smoky Mountain in USWA days. Not Smoky Mountain, USWA. And I just remember thinking, like, man, I want to see more of her, man. And one thing I think was very, very, like, one of the downfalls of WCW was the fact that they didn't have a women's division, man. I think they should have, accentuated the women in WCW, man. They ended up getting Medusa, but she basically was a valet. I mean, she might have had like a couple matches here and there, but they really didn't have a women's division, man. So Jackie Moore versus Medusa, man, that would have been great, man.
I agree.
So shout out to Jackie Moore.
So another thing I want to talk about before we get off of Jackie, another thing that really I thought lent a lot to this match was, as you mentioned, Kevin Sullivan came out with Jackie, but if you notice, on their way out to the ring, Kevin Sullivan kept trying to grab her by the hand and drag her by, and Jackie wasn't having it. And then it was almost all through the match, you could see she was trying to help her, yet was reluctant at the same time. It to younger wrestlers and younger fans, this is why the little things that you see in a match or in a story are so important, because those were all breadcrumbs to what you were going to see at the end of that match. Let's talk about the match itself. Exactly. As you alluded to before we started talking about it, obviously in 2020, we know that there's a lot more to the history of Chris Benoit, Nancy Benoit, and Kevin Sullivan, which, if you don't know the full story about that, I highly recommend you watching Dark Side of the Ring and the episodes that they did on the Chris Benoit story. If I'm not mistaken, from all the things that I've read and listened to on that, this was right around the time where Chris Benoit was pulling the Mr. Steal Your Girl card, and they were kind of in the transition in between.
Just Mr. Steal Your Girl.
Right. And, and the thing is, I remember them talking about it in Dark Side of the Ring, how at one point, Nancy Benoit's sister was talking about how at one of the shows, Kevin Sullivan's trying to get her to go with him, yet Nancy's like, no, you need to go with Chris. And if I'm not mistaken on the timeline, this was all kind of right during that period. So there's a lot that's going on in it. And obviously this match was something that they used so that Kevin Sullivan could completely be in booking for WCW at this point. This gets him off TV, but man, these guys beat the fuck out of each other.
Facts.
Jimmy Hart, man, that man took a hell of a gnarly bump off the lifeguard shack, huh?
I was just about to say that, man. That was them fighting in the back by the lifeguard shack and the beach that they were fighting at, man. It was. I said some people tend to shit on hardcore matches and matches that don't actually take place in the ring, but I think in a situation like this where you have a career on the line, it's a blood feud. When it's done right, man, it's not done as often. I think these hardcore matches or these last man standing matches or falls count anywhere type matches, I think they're really good. It's just that you have to, when you're doing it all the time, is when you're not wearing it out, is when it works. And I thought it definitely worked in this match, man, because it fit the story of Kevin Sullivan, whoever lost career was done. So yeah, go hardcore with it, man.
It's like you hear past guests of the show, Bruce Pritchard, say all the time on Something to Wrestle. It's like the cage match, right? Cage matches are cool. Everybody loves cage matches. But now that I'm older and understand how wrestling really works, matches like that should only be when it's like a blow-off. Clearly, in this situation, it was a retirement match. So, again, a blow-off. That's why this match makes sense. If you do too many hardcore matches, man, you run into the problem that you hear a lot of people say when it comes to deathmatch wrestling and things like that, that you're doing shit just for the sake of doing it. And this match, it really felt like it all made sense. There was a reason why they were doing it. There was a reason why they were fighting. That's something that's missing a lot from the shit that we see on Monday Night Raw every week, because half the time they're just fighting for no reason and putting Lana through a table just to keep the number up. But like I said, man, this match, very good match. The finish of the match, we alluded to how Jackie and Kevin Sullivan kind of had, their beef. Boy, did she knock the shit out of my man with that wooden chair, though.
Facts.
My man probably had a couple splitters in that chrome dome. Man. You know what they say? Hell hath no fury like
Jackie Moore's tough, man.
I don't want no smoke with this guy.
He kept touching her hair. You don't touch a black woman's hair, man. You don't
I'm a white guy and I know that. What the fuck?
No, sir.
Hey, man, you shouldn't have touched the hair, Kevin Sullivan, and then maybe you would still have a career in WCW.
Is it time for the best match of the night?
I guess we could call it that, but are we judging this under the Jerry Lawler scale or the scale of it being a good match? Because if it's under the Jerry Lawler scale, might be the best match of the night. Otherwise, not so much.
Oh, just for like my own personal sick enjoyment.
The next match that we're speaking about on this card is Steve Mongo McMichael versus Jeff Jarrett.
Yes.
Can we just say I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this other than
I'll take all the time we need. I take all the time, man.
All right. Well, I'm going to just say this by
go ahead.
The irony in this match is the thing that sticks out to me, right? So anyone that knows their wrestling history knows that when Jeff Jarrett went to WWF, him and Deborah were teamed up in WWF as well. As we saw in this match, Deborah turned on Mongo. Can't trust him. He turned on Mongo and it cost him the dub. I feel like this had a lot of interlude, and it's ironic the way things played out because a year later, you go from Jeff Jarrett being the U.S. heavyweight champion for WCW to the Intercontinental champion for the WWF in a year, and he's got the same manager. That really stuck out to me off rip. But the other thing that stuck out to me, why was Mongo so bad?
What are you talking about, man? Mongo's great.
Shit.
So I'm being facetious. Man, I can't think of the name of it right now, but anybody that's on Twitter, the Twitter page is like We Love Mongo or I Love Mongo. And it's literally just clips of him botching wrestling moves all the time, man. And I love it. I love every second of it. It's great. It's like 5 or 6 different channels. It's like Mongo just wrestling bad. It's like Ravishing Rick Rude selling atomic drops. Just go on Twitter and just look up these pages, man. They're great.
If you're on Twitter, make sure you're following us at KO3C Pod, and we will make sure that we share some of that out for you as well. All right, let's talk about this dumpster fire of a match real quick.
Wait. Let me jump into it, man. I didn't think this was a bad match for Mongo, man. I thought he actually held his own pretty well in this, and I think you got to give the credit to Jeff Jarrett. Never was a big Jeff Jarrett fan. I always thought those damn straps on his chest was weird as hell. I thought it was
JEFF JARRETT. That's Jeff Jarrett. Oh, ain't he great? Just kidding. Where's old Tennessee Lee?
Too hard to be Ric Flair, man.
Even to the figure 4. They even talked about that in the match, how he jacked the fucking figure 4 from Ric Flair and used it the rest of his career.
Blonde hair, did the strut, stole his move. I just always thought he was a bootleg Ric Flair, man. But he definitely carried Mongo into a pretty good match for Mongo, man.
It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. Like, Mongo's selling is what bothers me. Like, when my man went to go take the bump into the corner and he goes to throw the knee and he hits the pad, and like before he even hits the ground, he hits the pad. Oh, my knee! It's like, come on, man.
I love it, man. I love it. Just go on that. We'll post it, man. That Twitter page is amazing. It's just
make sure you're following us, and I will make sure it comes off of our social media today. All in all, like you said, it was a decent match. And again, one thing I will give credit to WCW for in this show is that the swerves that they came up with always seem to kind of come out of nowhere. Like, even though they might have laid seeds, like Deborah or what we talked about in the last match with Jackie, even though there were seeds laid, you're still like, damn, you just got fucked. That's one thing I miss from wrestling. I think that's one of the problems with a lot of the surprises, unlike the one with Sting that we just saw, which you can hear our thoughts about Sting's debut in AEW on our channel as well. Like I said, man, that was done very well. The match was done well, but hey, I just can't get with Mago. All right. Another quick sidebar before we get into the next match. Can we talk about the commercials that WCW used to do? Hog Wild. Let's run over the leather NWO coat.
Man,
God, thank God commercials
I miss
come far away from where they were.
I miss the 90s, man. It's such a simpler time.
I had to bring that up a little bit because I'm like, Sturgis.
WCW Road Wild.
Right, dude. All right. Talking about debuts and surprises and swerves, let's keep them going with the next match. The next match we had was Macho Man. Ooh, yeah, dig it. Macho Man and
cream always rises to the top.
The cream of the crop. Macho Man and Scott Hall versus DDP and the debuting Mr. Perfect. Hey, before we get started, we've interviewed DDP. Watch that shit. Yeah, dude, I was really looking forward to this one. Always been a fan of Mr. Perfect. How can you not be a fan of DDP? I'm an even bigger fan after meeting the guy. Couldn't have been cooler. But again, like I said, the swerves in this match, man. Mr. Perfect getting pissed because my man's pulled down the ropes a little bit and fucked up Mr. Perfect's flow.
Facts.
What were your thoughts on the match, bro?
Well, like you said, man, I was a huge Mr. Perfect fan back in the day. Like, but I've always had like this weird thing where like I was a fan of the guy that wasn't the top guy. So like Hulk Hogan, really wasn't my guy. I was a Mr. Perfect guy, and I didn't realize that this was his return to wrestling. Because if for those of you that know his history, he was with WWF. He suffered an injury and he had to leave wrestling and basically became a commentator and a manager for a while. And this was him coming back to wrestling in WCW, man. So to watch this now, I mean, I wish I had seen it then, but watching this now, man, it's like, man, Mr. Perfect's back. And at one point in the match, Scott Hall kind of called him out saying like, hey, man, you got a little gut there, don't you, buddy? But Mr. Perfect could still, I'm sorry, Kurt Hennig could still go, man. Like Kurt Hennig, even till he died, it was like 2003, 2004 when he showed up in the Royal Rumble. The guy could still go, man. He came in the Royal Rumble as like a one-off, and then they was like, hey, we're gonna keep you around because we got these young guys that could use a veteran like yourself to to help them out, man. So to me, Mr. Perfect is probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Just bell to bell, just one of the greatest of all time.
I agree. Man. I agree with you 100%.
See him here was great.
But I got to ask a question.
Definitely.
Here's the $1 million question. I'm a big fan of Mr. Perfect too, but should Mr. Perfect have ever been in the NWO?
Okay. I like how they put him in there, but
it did nothing once he was there.
It didn't do it. Yeah. Just like most of the people that joined the NWO after like X-Pac.
I'm sorry, brother.
6-Pac. Yeah. Like now you're just adding people just to have people in, man. Like when Ted DiBiase's in the NWO and Dusty Rhodes is in the NWO, man, you're going a little bit too far.
I see Ted could at least talk, but Dusty, bro. Dusty did not work.
You just add people.
Yeah, Dusty did not work.
The great Muda was in the NWO,
man. My point exactly. Why the fuck does the great Muda need to be in the NWO when he don't even talk? Like, god damn it, dude. Like, shit. At least you could have like put Sonny Ono with him or something.
Facts.
I don't know.
Put Sonny Ono in NWO. Everybody else was.
You're an NWO and you're an NWO and you're an NWO and you're an NWO and you're in the LWO and you're in the NWO too.
Oh wait, now we gotta break it off. Now you're in the black and red.
NWO black and gold, brother. All right. Let's talk about a match that did make a lot of sense.
Wait. I gotta rewind for 1 second. 1 second. Did you notice how much spitting there was in this match?
I didn't.
The first instance was Scott Hall threw the toothpick at Mr. Perfect, and Mr. Perfect spat his gum at Scott Hall. But like, dude, Macho Man was spitting. He spat at Kimberly.
They didn't know about COVID, bro.
DDP.
They didn't know about the Rona.
Back, man.
Leave them men alone. Now we have the advantage that the Rona is going to kill everybody. So you leave them men alone.
I'm watching this and I'm like, dude, why is everybody spitting? What is this, man? What is this? All right, I'm sorry. I didn't point that out.
Now that we've gotten past the giraffe spitting of Mr. Perfect and now that we've gotten past the giraffe spitting of Mr. Perfect and Scott Hall, let's talk about a match that is utterly serious. We got the match between the Hot Rod. Just when you think you've got all the answers, he starts changing the questions. Rest in peace to a legend, Mr. Hot Rod, Roddy Piper. Like I said, man, you've got Roddy Piper versus the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Woo!
Roddy, first of all, before we talk about the match, what were your thoughts about Roddy Piper in WCW? Not NWA, WCW.
Okay. Now, I'll be honest. I did not watch a lot of WCW at this time, right? But the big feud that sticks out to me was him and Hogan when basically they were making fun of his hip. Yeah. And then they were talking about his hip and how he had a hip replacement, and they showed his ass. So I thought that was weird. But
they showed Hogan's ass a lot in WCW. Yeah. The one WCW show I went to, I got a full moon of the Nates that night.
Oh, that's just about every night. But man, like this was a damn good match, man.
I agree.
It's like two old guys just going at it, man, and like it's kind of that old school style, but I enjoyed every second of it, man. To me, this was the best match of the night.
Okay. I can't really argue with that. So, since we've talked about Roddy Piper and WCW, one thing that jumped out to me in this match is like one that the interference in the match made sense, right? Like we talked about Mongo McMichael, but you know, for those who aren't aware, obviously Ric Flair is the leader of the Four Horsemen. And in this match, we had a run in from the crippler, Chris Benoit, who at the time was a member of the Four Horsemen, which, hey, you've got half of the original Four Horsemen of this show on the show. We're supposed to have 3 of the 4, but he's still sleeping. Yeah. I mean, Kev, we all got to get our beauty sleep too, man. You know, this beard that I've been growing over quarantine, you know, it's kind of got to, you know, it's got to get its too. But what were your thoughts on the Four Horsemen interference? This is one of the matches where I kind of feel like the interference was done in a good way.
I agree, man. Having interference just to have interference. I don't know if you listened to Eric Bischoff talk about, you know, the major flaw of WCW is like one thing that they did not do well was finishes, like the same finish in multiple matches in the same night. But I thought the interference in that match was very done very, very well. It definitely helped, push the story along, man. So I agree with me. I think they did a good job with it as far as like, Benoit and Mongo getting involved.
So I love Roddy Piper. I love the sleeper. Well, how come, bro, that has to be the most loose chokehold I've ever seen in my life.
As Stone Cold Steve Austin would say, you need to get a little bit more snug with that sleeper hold, son.
I don't know, man. That was
tighten that up a little bit, man.
That's what I'm saying. When my man's chin is like hanging out the bottom of it, like
Ric Flair's all something like this.
I'm choking him, but he's breathing. I'm choking him, but he's breathing.
Yeah. Get it under there, man. Snug. Don't choke him, but get a little snug in there, man. A little snug.
See, this is one of the matches that was done real well. I mean, later in WCW, for those of you who may not know, as we got closer to like 99 and 2000, this was still Ric Flair as Ric Flair. By the end of it, not so much. But all in all, like Devin said, this was a great match. All right. Main event time.
My favorite match of the night.
I thought you said your favorite match of the night was you said your favorite match of the night was the Jericho match.
No, I said it was up there. I said it was up there.
All right, so this is your favorite match of the card. All right, as you hear it, Devin's pick, best match of the night, Rodman and Hogan versus fucking Luger and DDP.
Wait, no.
Or not Luger and DDP, Luger and the Giant.
No, I was saying my favorite.
Excuse me.
No, I was saying my favorite match was Roddy and Flair.
Okay.
My bad. Let me clarify.
All right. Roddy and Flair. What about this match though, dude? I mean, Dennis Rodman coming in
main event time
was probably, I would say, one of the best attempts WCW ever had at bringing in a celebrity guest, where I feel like it worked well. What are your thoughts?
What about Jay Leno?
Dude, Jay Leno had no fucking business in a wrestling ring. Jay Leno's a funny son bitch. Have him come on the Jay Leno show. Even have him do an interview in the ring. But bro, that looks so corny.
What about David Arquette?
He was a world champion. You say what you want, but he was a world champion. Dude, my question to you is, did you find this match hokey?
Hokey, yes, but even though it was hokey, I thought it was still entertaining and done pretty well.
Okay.
Like, you can be hokey, but still entertain and do a good job. And I thought this match, it was believable. It was believable. Like, Hogan basically had to protect Dennis Rodman. And Rodman would have his little moments when he would get in there, get a little bit of offense off, but then he would get cut off. And, basically Hogan and Macho would have to, coddle him and make sure he was, yeah. So I thought it was, was it hokey? Yes, but I thought it was done well. And Dennis Rodman did a pretty damn good job.
I agree with you. I think it did well for what it was supposed to. I think it brought a lot of good light to WCW, as opposed to some of the other things that they brought in latter years. But my question off of that is, what are your thoughts on Rodman's overall performance?
I think Rodman did a good job, man. I thought he did a good job. Okay. I'm going to say something that I thought I would never say. And when I say this, you're probably going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe Devin's actually doing this right now. The MVP of that match was Hulk Hogan.
Wow. For those
Hulk Hogan did a
show, go back
Hulk
and
Hogan did a damn.
This motherfucker hates Hulk Hogan.
I can't stand the motherfucker, man. But Hulk Hogan did a great job of, telling the story, making sure Dennis was engaged. The promos leading up to the match, I thought Hogan did a great job on the promos, and Dennis Rodman was able to keep up and help with the promos as well. As far as in the match, to be honest with you, he was probably the best worker in that match because you got to realize the Giant, aka Big Show, has probably only been wrestling for like what, a year at this point. No one's ever going to mistake Lex Luger for being the greatest in-ring guy, and Dennis Rodman had been wrestling for like a couple weeks. So Hogan was definitely the veteran, the guy that the glue of this match. And this match doesn't work if it's not for Hulk Hogan. So Hulk Hogan was definitely the MVP of this match, and I'm pretty sure Macho Man on the outside too. I know he was probably coaching Dennis along too, helping out, keeping things together. But shout out to Hulk Hogan for keeping this match together, man. And I thought Dennis did a good job. Like the thing you gotta realize about Dennis Rodman, man, is the guy is like a loose cannon. Like the guy, like if you saw the documentary, you heard the story about him.
Fuck the documentary. The man was wearing fucking makeup. Look at his cheeks. This man had makeup on in a fist fight.
That's Dennis, man.
So, like, did that not stick out?
I don't think you. Okay, wait. Okay, let's rewind, man. So, like you said, you were about 4 years old during this time.
I know the man dressed up in wedding dresses, bro.
This is like my guy. I was a huge Dennis. Is that number one? Dennis was probably the most, probably next to Michael Jordan. He was probably the most popular basketball. He's one of the most popular athletes in the world at the time. Then two, he just did such outlandish shit all the time that none of this shit surprises me, man. Like him wearing makeup didn't even register to me, man. Because like that's just Dennis. That's just what he does, man. Like even back when before he started going all out, even he's with the Pistons, he used to have like the high top fade with the designs in his head, man. He's always been like the quote unquote the weird one, man. So him wearing makeup was like the least thing that stood out to me.
But in a wrestling match, though, man,
still Dennis Rodman. Dennis being Dennis, man.
It is what it is, and from what I know, I mean, this definitely drew a good rating for WCW. All in all, man, I gotta say, wasn't that bad of a show to watch. It really wasn't. Like it.
I agree.
It had a couple dead spots, but it wasn't that bad of a show. We went back here and gave you our look back here at Bash of the Beach 1997. If there's any other shows that you want to go and take a look back at, let us know. Let us know in the comments. Tweet us at KO3C Pod. Hit us up on Instagram at KO3C Pod. Hit us up on the inbox and Facebook like Nick did, and we'll do another video like one of these. But before we get out of here, as we're taking look backs, one thing I want to say before we get out of here, this video has a little bit of extra meaning to us. We lost someone real close to us in the Knockouts and Three Counts family. We lost a good friend and somebody who's been supporting us since day one of this show, Mr. Seath Johnson. Any of you guys who came to any of our parties at Buffalo Wild Wings for any of the pay-per-views, you've definitely seen Seath. So before I get out of here, man, I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Seath. Shout out to Seath. Rest in peace, big homie. Thankful for your friendship. Thank you for your support of the show. All that good stuff. Dev, anything you want to say about Seath before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. Like you mentioned Buffalo Wild Wings, man, but I met Seath back in the day going to Bailey's, man, where we used to watch the pay-per-views.
I remember that's where I first met him too.
Yeah, and the first time I had any interaction with Seath, I was walking into Bailey's, man. I want to say it was for the Royal Rumble, and I had my Wu-Tang hoodie on, man, and he just started yelling "Woo," and I started yelling "Tang," man. We've been doing that for years, but Seath, man, he's been a major supporter of Knockouts and Three Counts and All Steak No Sizzle, man. I had him on my podcast quite a few times, especially around draft time, man, because I just love making fun of him being a Lions fan. But we've had Seath on our show a few times, man, and he's been a major supporter of ours, man. Whenever we had events, he was there, man. He showed a lot of support to the podcast, man. And yeah, finding out that we lost him, man, it threw me for a loop, man. That was like the last thing I wanted to hear. Um, so yeah, I mean the knockouts and three counts family, man. I just want everybody to um, give your thoughts and prayers to C's family, and man, I'm gonna miss the big fella, man. That was my guy, man. Seath, man. The thing about Seath, man, he was just such a generous person, man. Like Seath knew I was a big Deadpool fan. Um, so Seath hooked me up with like advanced screening and passes to the first Deadpool movie, man. That's just the type of person he was, man. And I talked about the Royal Rumble. If you went to any of the Royal Rumble parties at Bailey's, Seath was the one that put together the Royal Rumble pool, man. He used to run it every single year, man. So hopefully, whenever we get back to some resemblance of normal, we can congregate again. I want to do the Royal Rumble pool again, man, and do it in honor of Steve, man. Since that was his thing.
I can promise you, dude, the next party that we get to do that is associated with the Royal Rumble, there will be a Seath Johnson raffle or Royal Rumble lottery or whatever we're going to call it. Like you said, man, I can't really say it any better than you
Right.
did. I mean, for those of you who've been watching or listening to the show, I've had quite the year myself. I mean, we've had like 7 deaths in my family. And, when my dad died, Seath was one of the first person to call. When my uncle died on my dad's first birthday since being dead, Seath made sure to comment on there and show his respects. Literally everything that we've had go on with the show, or like even in personal, like I met Seath at Bailey's, which Bailey's was really where the inception for this show came from. That's where we all met. And, Seath has been, obviously Devin and the guys on the show are a little bit older than me, but dude, since the day I met that guy, you wouldn't have known. I mean, dude, he was just cool people. He would do whatever he could to make you laugh, make you smile, help you out in any way he could, even now offer you a word of encouragement. Even when I went to go see Christy the day after, she's like, "Oh my God, is that the guy from the parties and stuff?" If you knew Seath, you know the impact that he had. And if you were a friend, he had an impact on your life. So as we said, this show is dedicated to Seath Johnson. We miss you, brother, man. Like I said, if you guys are new to the show, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Make sure you're checking us out live Tuesdays at 9. Hopefully we'll see more of this guy back on the live show with us. And if you're in the Texas area, we're coming to you real soon in January, so stay tuned. So until next time, and in the in-between time, fuck your couch!